What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Critical Overlord here. So we're going to be talking about Scream 7 in this video here today. It's been a while since I've done a solo video about Scream 7, but the Your Favorite Scary Movie book is now out. And as I talked about, as other people have been talking about, if you're on Twitter or just been following some other creators on YouTube, it gave us a deeper dive into Scream 7, but there was a portion of the book that gave us a little bit more of a deeper insight as to how Neve Campbell got back into the mix when it comes to Scream 7. I wanted to address that and then also go into Jasmin Brown's comments because she might have shared too much, according to some, who have jumped to conclusions based off of her choice of words. But in a portion of this book, it starts to go over how we got to the Neve Campbell Sidney Prescott story that we're going to be getting with Scream 7, beyond everything else that we know brought us to the dance. It mentions that the original concept for 7 was a continuation of the story in Scream 5 and Scream 6, but the new one is going to be in a very different direction. This is going to be a standalone, but it'll probably feel more like the original Screams than any of them, which is what I love about it. This is what Kevin Williamson had to say. Just like with 5 and 6, Guy Busick shot for the moon. Once again, we have one more Scream to make. What do we want to see? The answer was simple in theory and more complicated in practice, a true Sidney Prescott story. Kevin Williamson had always wanted Neve Campbell to come back to Scream. He understood why she passed on 6, but he felt like there was so much more story left for Sidney. He deeply wanted her to feel connected to the new films and the creative team in the same way he had since he changed his mind about rejoining the franchise in the lead up to 5. I expressed that to Neve. I was like, I wish you could have the experience that I'm having with it. I was very hesitant. I didn't want to jump in. I said no, until I said yes. Once I said yes and I gave into it, it's been a wonderful ride. I've met all these new people and they've sort of become a new family for me. Before Busick pitched his idea to Campbell, he ran it by Williamson via Zoom. It struck exactly the right chord with the franchise creator, which made them confident to approach their star. We all sat around William Schreck's dining room table. Neve, her manager, me, Guy, Jamie, and William. They pitched it to her, and it was even better than when we pitched it or when he pitched it to me. She goes, well, guys, I love this. I think this is amazing. She had a couple questions. She wanted to discuss a few things creatively. She is so smart. She knows exactly who Sidney Prescott is. She knew exactly who she wanted Sidney Prescott to be in this next version, and it was very much in line with what Guy had pitched. And she even added to it. She was so in sync with it. She said, if we can work out the rest of it, I'm in. The rest of it being an offer from Gary Barber at Spyglass that reflected her impact on the franchise. She was so lovely and so professional. She handled herself so much better than I could have. This is what Kevin Williamson had to say. It was really exciting for me to watch, quite frankly, and then Gary did the right thing. I didn't ask Neve the details. I just said, are you happy? She goes, I'm very happy. And what I'm so very happy about is how he handled it. Hollywood negotiations often start with a lowball offer, but Barber skipped ahead this time and they started in a place that allowed them to work out the details quickly. I had big conversations with the studio when they approached me about it. We had some apologies and we had some honesty, and that was really great. So I feel good about coming back. This is what Neve Campbell said. When they approached me, they said, we're going to come with a number that is starting in a much more appropriate place. Then we negotiated and we got to where we needed to be, which is what should have happened on 6, but it's okay. We live and learn. Not only is she back as the lead, but she's also producing. Cooler heads prevailed and everyone was smart about what they were doing, said Williamson. We were so thrilled to have it all fall into place. Now, the story itself, the reason why I wanted to address it is because aside from my idea and my opinion that we don't need to have any more Sidney Prescott stories, knowing a bit of how this all came to be kind of does put a smile on my face to a degree. If I ignore all the other stuff, on a human level, for Neve Campbell, who felt that she was undervalued going into the meetings for Scream 6, it's nice that she was able to come together with people she didn't see eye to eye with before. They were able to concoct something that she thought was of respect to her. They didn't try to undermine her. And both parties walked away with a new direction to take the Scream franchise in. Well, not new to us, but new direction for the same old character that we all loved. That's a nice story to have shared in this portion of the book. It's just unfortunate all the other factors that contributed to us getting to this point. but on a basic human level for Neve Campbell herself, who also was done dirty by Spyglass, this was a nice read. I'm very happy for her to a degree, that she was able to have a pleasant meeting with Gary Barber, somebody who many of us do not like for reasons we all know about. That was a nice piece of information to have shared in this book. But after reading it, I do have to be reasonable with myself and go, what are the chances that this also happens with Melissa Barrera? It is very possible that these two could have a meeting of the minds just as he and Neve were able to. It's very possible. The thing is, when will this ever happen? I do not see Melissa Barrera coming back to the Scream franchise for a good while. I just don't see it. If she's in Scream 8, then she's in Scream 8. But I do want to at least acknowledge that I think that if Neve and Gary got back on good terms, Melissa and Gary might be able to get back on good terms as well. I do at least want to acknowledge that big possibility. Now, of course, Melissa Barrera's firing is much different than Neve Campbell's pay dispute, because that has a whole smear campaign at the center of it all. So if she ever wants to have a meeting of the minds with Gary Barber, Spyglass, they're going to have to put the same energy they put into smearing that name into praising it. And that's not an unfair credential for her if she wanted to have that to her advantage while negotiating with them. The same way you put energy into smearing that name, now you put that same energy into praising it. I think that's a fair trade-off. And I could see that happening in another couple of years, few years, I'll say. I just don't see it happening for Scream 8. If it does, it does. But I just want to at least acknowledge the same way Neve and Gary would have a meeting of the minds, Gary and Melissa can do it too. I just think that's so much more sensitive and it's going to take a bit longer. That's all I'm getting at. Now, Jasmin Brown's comments in this book have convinced many we already know the fate of the Meeks twins going into Scream 7. So Jasmin made this comment. She said, "I can't imagine making this movie without Melissa and Jenna. It won't be the same. On the flip side, I do care about this character so much, and I do care so much about the people that care about her. I hope that someday, even if it's 20 years from now, the core four gets back together on screen." So, of course, the assumption people want to jump to, or the conclusion people want to jump to is, well, how would you be able to get back together if either you or Chad died in Scream 7? They, of course, could start doing Halloween timeline stuff, or they could do some Wes Craven New Nightmare type of thing, which I don't ever think they should do with Scream. But that's a safe assumption to, yes, make that means that the Meeks twins will be making it out of Scream 7 alive. And is there anything wrong with that? On paper, no. But how many other survivors are going to be making it out of Scream 7 alive? Will people take issue with that the way they took issue with it in Scream 6? We'll see. I think, honestly, if I want to be fair, with Scream 6, I think this is also something people just fail to articulate when they want to complain about how many people survived in 6. I think what motivates people to say that is the amount of brutality we see at hand towards certain characters. It's not that they are necessarily surviving and there's too many survivors. It's that there's too many survivors based off of what we saw happen to a lot of them. I think that's what a lot of people's problem is. And they don't mention that. They give blanket statements on the fact that there's too many survivors. And it seems a bit off-putting to some because the amount of survivors isn't really that far off from what they've been doing with the trio and some other supporting characters with the trio in past films. But I think the issue with 6 for some that they don't explain well enough, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because if you have some other issue with why they survived, then you can explain that. But I think what I tend to see is people will mention they should be dead because this happened to them, that happened to them. And that's a fair assessment. They just leave it out. They give blanket statements that make it seem like you have some type of gripe against the core four. That's what it looks like when you leave certain things out. So you have to give context. But you guys let me know what you think about all this down in the comment section below. Do you think that Jasmin spoiled 2 survivors for Scream 7? Let me know why or why not down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, of course, make sure you subscribe, turn on post notifications. There's a video in the description. I have links to all my social media accounts. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can message me there, of course. Let me know if there are any movies, news, or reviews you'd like me to cover in the future. And with all that in mind, guys, I will see you in the next video.